All right, so thank you very much, Samantha. It's an honor for me actually to introduce to everyone today this new release, which is called the TAO Community Edition. I think this is a great moment for OET and a great demonstration of our commitment to try to help the common good in general, to try to improve education worldwide. So I'm really thrilled and proud of this new release. So yeah, so thank you very much for this opportunity. And today I would like to tell you more about what is this release. Samantha was marketing manager by OET for a couple of years, has also started to collect some of the key questions we get from the community on this new release, especially around licenses. And so Samantha will raise a little bit those questions so we can clarify everything about this open source model for TAO. So with no further ado, I will start a little bit with the next slide now. So that is the agenda. So as I said, so I will show you the release, and in particular today for this webinar, we intend to do a couple of webinars, actually even regular webinars. And I will show you today how to install TAO Community Edition from scratch on any computer. So I will install it in front of you today on my computer. So my computer is completely fresh. I have uninstalled everything from before, and I will do a fresh installation. And the goal for us is to show you how easy it is actually to install TAO Community Edition, because beyond being open source, we wanted things to be very easy. As part of the fairness value of OET, we wanted anyone to be able to access modern assessments for free, and that includes also the possibility to install it easily. We know that sometimes installing open source software is complex. You have dependencies, etc. So I will show you this process of installing it, and hopefully today you will see that it takes less than half an hour. And then I will continue a little bit with the first steps, how you can deliver an assessment using the TAO Community Edition after you have installed it. And all of this will happen within this webinar. Then we will open the floor with Q&A. So as Samantha pointed out, I think there is a tool in this conferencing system where you can drop some questions, and we will do our best to address those at the end of the webinar. And if times does not allow for that, then maybe we will have to follow up on those questions later on. Maybe before I start the actual process of installation, I would like to share a bit more information about the community of TAO Community Edition. So as you might be aware, so we have released this new brand technology on January the 5th, 2026, so this year, basically, so it's only 35 days. And this technology includes all the technology that OET has been building through use cases, through customers, through large-scale assessments worldwide. So we have been implementing a lot of new services, including grading tool, including TAO Insights to analyze the data, a lot of features such as proctoring, etc. So all this technology is part of TAO Community Edition. So there is no strings attached. It is not a subset. We obviously just removed specific customization that we have to do for customers, but it includes all the technology. And since January the 5th, I'm quite proud to announce that we already got a lot of downloads from a lot of institutions, especially public institutions, but also universities. And we already have about 42 countries having downloaded and installed this community edition. And I hope that after this webinar, maybe we will see this number bumping up a little bit. Obviously, assessment technology is a bit of a specific technology, so that's why the number may look low, but for this industry, those numbers are actually really awesome at this stage, especially after just 1 month. And I think this is the success of being open source in this industry. So I'm quite proud of those numbers, and hopefully they will grow up in the future. We want to broaden the user base. And in particular, we want to broaden the user base not only to high resource countries, like from Europe or from the US, but we want also to broaden the user base to countries not having used TAO in the past, because running low resources, would that be in terms of infrastructure, would that be in terms of budget, but with this open source, I think now we can offer some solution for low resource countries, and we would like to broaden the community to those countries, and obviously capture some feedbacks, capture some contributions back, and expand the community. So that's a bit also the goal behind this TAO Community Edition, is to reestablish the foundation of the community there, and the values that we are sharing with OET, that is to help on education globally. Right. So I will start the process of installing TAO Community Edition. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong slide. And the process starts with our website. So we will share the links after. So there is one page on our website, that is this one, where you can access the forum. I think we will talk a little bit about the forum later, but I think for today, the interesting link is this one, that is the platform deployment guide. And here, basically, you will get a form. The goal of this form, I mean, it's fully open source, it's free, but the idea for us is to try to capture some information about the users of TAO Community Edition, to try to help them as well, to try to stay in touch with them. So that's why we put this form in front of the download of the TAO Community Edition. But it's rather easy. You just complete a few details, an email, and as soon as you submit, you will get an email, and this email will contain the installation guide procedure. So, and it's automated, so it's within a few minutes. So this email will contain a link to this page, which basically explain all the process to install TAO Community Edition. And don't be afraid, it may look long. I mean, if I scroll down here, but that's just because we included some information about how to get started. But really, the process is very simple. It doesn't require strong IT skills. And here, I was even tempted to say it does not really require IT skills to install the full TAO Community Edition on any computer. It's rather easy. It's basically a two-step process. And I invite you, if you want to try to do it on your own, maybe you can look at the recording after and try to reproduce the steps I'm going to do now in front of you. So the first step here is basically to install what we call, so it's called Docker. So Docker, it's a third-party software, and this Docker application basically is a modern technique to deploy complex application. Because assessment software is complex. There are always a lot of services that you need, a lot of dependencies, and I'm sure you are familiar sometimes when trying to install open source software, that suddenly you realize, oh, you need this dependency, or you need this other dependency to install this dependency, etc. With Docker, it kind of aggregates everything into a container so that the process of installing it is super easy. So the first step is to install Docker. And you can see now on this download page from this third party, and there are alternatives to Docker. You don't have particularly to use Docker. You can use other software for that. There is some standard behind it. I'm using Docker because it's easy for me. So Mac, Windows, Linux. Oops, I selected Windows, but I'm running a Mac here. So I'm running a Mac. I just need to tell here that I'm running, basically, I have an old Mac Book Pro. It's still running the Intel chipset. I mean, modern MacBook Pro, they run Apple Silicon, but in my case, I need to declare that I'm running Intel chip. So the architecture is slightly different. So this process, you can see now the download has started on my computer. Won't take long. I think it's like 30 seconds. And the installation of Docker, it's rather straightforward. I don't actually even remember the exact steps, but I think it's like you just click forward, next, and finish, and then that's it. So let's just wait that it's finished. And yeah, so here you can see, so this is the typical way to install application on a Mac, but on Windows, you have some sort of small wizard, but very similar. On a Mac, it's straightforward. You just drag and drop Docker into your application folder. You just needed to say that, oh, because in my case, apparently I had already Docker, I will just say I will replace Docker here, and then it is installing all the application. So same process like for any other software for Mac. Just wait a little bit. I mean, there will be some times during this webinar where I will have to download things, um, but you will see that it doesn't take that long. All right, so now Docker is installed. So I can go straight to my application folder. I can see indeed now I have Docker here and I can launch it. So it's starting, it's verifying the first time you launch it on a Mac, an application, it checks for security reasons a few things. It comes from the internet, I trust it. All right, and now it's basically already launched. Right, and you can see it's empty. I don't have any application installed, right? I mean, and this is where we want to install TAO Community Edition. So it's completely empty now. So now comes basically the next step of the installation of TAO Community Edition. And the next step, if I go back to my installation guide, where is it? Oh, maybe I closed it there. Oops. Yeah, I think I opened the link directly. Let me just go back to the installation guide. Right, so the next step is basically to uh, download. It's a small file. It's some sort of recipe for Docker. And this recipe is a simple text file that will tell Docker what to install exactly about our Community Edition. So I'm just going to download this file, and you will see it's already done. Right? I mean, it's just a simple text file, so it's just a few seconds. Then comes the actual instruction for Docker to install Community Edition. And it's one line of command. And then that's it. That will be it. We will have installed our Community Edition. Obviously, Docker will have to download a lot of stuff on the internet. So during the installation process, you will need to download stuff. So it depends a little bit on the bandwidth. On my computer, it takes around maybe 5-6 minutes to download everything, but you will see straightforward. So this is one command line that you need to run in your terminal, right? So on Mac, Windows, Linux, same thing. And here, oops. Right, so I have it here in my history of commands, right? So Docker on this binary file now exists in your system because you've installed Docker just before. So even on Windows, it will know this binary file. And then you have some parameters, compose, which is the right name for it. It composes the recipe. It takes everything to run TAO Community Edition on your computer. You can see the actual file I've just downloaded. So this is the recipe, and I'm just going to push enter now. And what Docker is doing now is basically pulling everything, pulling all the services, because TAO requires a database, TAO requires a caching system for performance reasons, TAO requires a messaging system. So there are many things that are required. But with this Docker image, everything is super easy to install. And that's the message we wanted to convey today. So this process will take a few minutes. And I think maybe Samantha, that will be the right time while the process is going on to raise some of the questions you got from the early users.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. As Patrick mentioned, I've been collecting from the community some of the frequently asked questions. And one question we've been getting a lot, Patrick, is about the open source license. So could you tell us a little bit about the license that TAO Community Edition is released under and, the benefits and why it was chosen?
Right. So the okay. So the previous version of TAO, we were calling that TAO core, right? Open source. It was GPL2, and then we discussed with our legal advice to try to provide the maximum benefits for the community, and they recommended to upgrade to the AGPL3, which is the evolution of the GPL2. So today, TAO Community Edition is released under AGPL3 license terms. This is a license that is recognized, that is popular first. It's very popular. I mean, there are the main license in the open source world. I mean, there are many, but the popular one are MIT and the GPL licenses. And a GPL3 is quite common nowadays. So this license allows to all the users from the community to download TAO Community Edition, to use it, to modify it, and to redistribute it. And the only difference between GPL2 and AGPL3, which is, I think, a benefit for the community, that is that if someone exposes Community Edition online through a website, and makes modification of it, significant modifications of it, like a new feature or new functionality, it is meant to share back to the community modifications that are done. Obviously, if those modifications are relevant for the community, if you change just to put your own logo there from your institution, etc., it's not that relevant, right? But if you do substantial new development in the community edition, you are meant to share this back with the community so that everyone can benefit from it. So that's the game of the open source. In the game of the open source, you get a lot of rights, you get the freedom to do whatever you want, but it comes also with some expectations, like this one. If you do a change, you're meant to share back with the community this modification as a return on the fact that you used it for free in the first place. So that's the game of the open source, and I think AGPL3 is perfect for that.
Great, thank you. That kind of leads into my next question. So, can TAO Community Edition be used in a commercial context? And what does commercial use actually mean in practice under this open source license?
Yeah, right. So the okay, so that's a very good question, right? I mean, well, obviously, legal advice is always useful, but in general, the GPL licenses, including the AGPL3, allows users to use the software that is under that license for commercial reasons as well. There is no restriction for that. But and this but is quite important here. And as I said before, but if let's say a commercial company takes TAO Community Edition and starts exposing it and starts sending services, etc., they can. But if they do modification for their own customers or adaptations, etc., then they will have to share back any modification for the benefit of the whole community. So that's the conditions under which you can use it for commercial reasons. So basically, they have to comply. We say in general that you have to comply with the terms of the open source license, which can sound strange because a lot of people think, yeah, it's free, you can use it, you can modify it. I mean, what do I have to comply to? That's part of that's the important part where you need to comply also with the obligation to share back any key modification made for the open source software, and which in the case of a commercial company trying to do business using TAO Community Edition might sometimes be a bit more challenging for them because it depends obviously on the agreement with their customers, etc. So sometimes they cannot comply with those terms, and that's fine as well. But then in this case, they need to acquire another license with OAT, who is the owner of the Community Edition. They need to acquire a license, a commercial license with OAT for this kind of scenario where the commercial company do not want to comply with the terms of the GPL3. That's how it works.
Mm, thank you. Another one of the frequently asked questions is about the typical use case for TAO Community Edition. Is it meant primarily for experimentation, or do you see it running in production environments?
Yeah, the community edition, it is the exact same technology OOT is using for their own customers. Obviously, OOT is running that in the cloud with a more elaborated architecture, right? I mean, here you're getting the software, and it's all about how you support it, how you deploy it, the architecture you put in place, the redundancy, the backups strategy. And obviously that makes a difference, right, for production. Now, for me, the typical use case I see for the community edition would be to run pilot studies, maybe to test new test items, new questions with a sample of the population. And there is no artificial barrier in the software, right? I mean, you can run it at the scale you want if you have the infrastructure for it. But if you were to run it for a sample of the population in a country to test new assessment items, I'm pretty sure you could run easily even 5,000 test takers, maybe with concurrency of 200, 300 test takers for, let's say, rather lower stakes and more for research or experimentation of new test items, and at very low cost because it's completely free in this scenario, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Avenue and pathway that a lot of institutions have the opportunity to take. Um, and when it comes to TAO's enterprise offerings, you mentioned that you can scale TAO Community Edition and run assessment pilots. How, what are the key differences, I guess, between TAO Community Edition and TAO's enterprise offerings?
Right. So enterprise comes with there are some um, exclusive features available from enterprise, but the key difference is rather I would say the peace of mind, because their OAT commits to deliver large-scale assessment with a certain degree of SLA, depending on the contract, with all the redundancy required to run this kind of large-scale assessment. So whenever it is high stakes, you basically get with enterprise the peace of mind to run this at large scale. So that's for me the key difference there, but also the option to get access to our services of making customization, adaptations of the software for your own needs. And that's almost very often the case, right? For any of our customers, we always have to adapt the software to add new extensions, new functionality just for them, implementing their own business workflow that is very specific. And obviously with enterprise, you have access to this kind of service, and with our staff with experience with TAO and all the architecture, it's obviously more cost effective. No.
And when
Right.
you're getting started, oh, okay. Is it the,
It's up to you. If you have more questions, we can, or maybe at the end of the
yeah.
session if you have more questions. All right. So as you can see, and thank you for your patience, but we wanted to show you the full process. So you can see right at the time. I mean, it was not very long. It was in total, I think, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, right? During those 2 or 3 questions here. So you see it's rather easy. And now basically on my computer, everything is installed. There is one optional test. So if we go back to our installation guide, there is one optional test here that is how you access Notao on your computer, right? So, and you can basically type in the IP address, but because I'm a lazy person, I did this optional configuration here, and I edited a simple file which exists on all system, that is this etc. So I'm just editing one file, and on Windows, you have it. It's just on Windows. It's hidden behind the Windows system folder. On Linux, it's the same location as on a Mac. And this file basically, yeah, I need to connect properly. So this file is basically just telling my computer whenever in my web browser, I will type in community.tao.internal, it will point me directly to this Docker TAO Community Edition instance, which is what we will do right now. So I'm just going to close this window now, and I'm going to go into All right. So here you have this screen, and unfortunately, I mean, that's something we could have improved, but we didn't have the time to improve this one. We intend to do it for the next version. Is that in terms of certificate, we didn't have the time to issue the certificate in the community edition for the security check. I mean, there is no issue in terms of security. It's just that we don't have the certificate. Sometimes when you go on some websites, you have this warning from the web browser. Sometimes it's legitimate warning. You need to be careful, right? But in this case, since you install it yourself, you can trust it. There is no issue. It's just the encryption protocol that doesn't get the certificate. And we intend to improve this for next step. And it's just once, right? So now I'm proceed to community.tao internal. And yeah, that's it. Basically, I have now TAO, the full TAO suite of projects installed on my computer after less than half an hour. So the installation guide gives you some initial credentials. And by default, they are very simple credentials. So we advise to change those credentials once you have installed. Did you mistake here? Or? There you go. So that's it. So basically, that's TAO Community Edition. And maybe if you have been users of the previous technology, you don't recognize the screen. This is a new product. It's called TAO Portal. This is the part where you can roster all the students from classroom, from schools, or from a country, where you can define groups, where you can assign test takers to take tests. So this part has changed a lot. You will see also that we have included TAO Grader. I think the part where you may be more familiar if you use the previous version is the part about the content bank, the test, the items, etc. And now we enter the second part of this webinar because I've installed everything. Everything is running on my computer now. There's nothing else to do in terms of installation. But I wanted to complete a little bit this webinar by giving you some first steps, how to get started, because you may be a bit lost the first time you discover TAO, but you will see it's rather easy. So what we will do together is that I will import a test, a simple test in QTI format, and then I will configure to some test taker, and then I will connect as this test taker, and we will take the test I've just imported. So the content bank, and here I'm sure many of you will recognize this part, right? So items, tests, you have seen that some of the things have disappeared because they have been replaced by more modern components in the system. But you can see that you have here the items part where you can edit all your items, the test part. And this is where here, for the sake of this webinar, I won't create a full test from scratch in the system with the authoring tool. I will simply import the test using the QTI format. So I'm browsing now my downloads folder, and I have one test. Just need to, yeah, there it is. Open it. Right, 4 megabytes test. So this is our standard demo testing I'm using. And in the next version of TAO Community Edition, we intend to try to provide some sample data to ease the process, especially for people who are not familiar with TAO, to get started with it. But here you will see it's quite straightforward. So now the test is being imported. You can see here this spinning wheel can have some feedback. It takes a while because there are 4 megabytes. I think there are like 12 items into this test. It takes a bit more time. I think my computer is a bit eating up because of all the application now launched, plus the conferencing system. Maybe I can start already the process of creating the test delivery. So this is the next step as in the previous version of TAO so far. So I can create the new delivery, and here I can select, so what was the name again of the was a demo. I'm sorry. Yeah, all right. So let's just take one of the two order what is doing this, and then I can publish. So here, same thing, it's basically freezing all the tests, preparing all the assets for the administration of the test, so all the images, CSS, etc. I think while it's doing that, I think I can already show in the portal how I can create one test taker, one session, so I can show a bit of the configuration. The goal is basically to take a test together. Right? So I will create one new user, and here we had a few users already in this version. So I'm going to add one. We just move the conferencing system, create user. So I will just call it demo 10, not to conflict with any other user. Just one password. There are some requirements on the password, so I need to have a proper password here. And let's call it okay, I made a mistake. All right, so Patrick demo 10. So this is one test taker. Now I need to declare that this test taker is part, and you can see, yeah, I had some other try before. So I can put Patrick demo in a group. So I need I need also to create now a group, so like a classroom or school. So let's call it classroom, or it could be a sample for this field trial or pilot study. So create the group. And I can already appoint, I think I can already appoint the user I just created here. Let's put Patrick demo into this group. So I'm assigning Patrick demo to this sample or to this group or to this classroom. And now I declare the group. And last but not least, we need to configure sessions. So sessions is basically the artifact by which you kind of say to TAO Community Edition, those groups, they can take this test under those circumstances with maybe accessibility tools, maybe not, etc. So let's create one session. And here it's just a name for the session. So let's call it webinar demo. And I'm going to select the group. And it was Classroom 3C, right, which I just created. We need to select the test, and you can see now I have 3 because I had 2 already, but we just imported 1 together. So I will just take here the last one from today, right, February 10. So this is the test we have imported together. And then we have a bunch of options. And here, maybe for this demo, you can see that there are some security options, but you will see many new things, right, in a TAO Community Edition. Let's activate some of the accessibility tools. So here, like the text font and spacing, and I think maybe I will activate also the review, right? So this is a new feature as well. Yeah, okay, let's activate everything here. So, and now I'm creating the session. Right, and then I just need to make sure what was the login demo 10, right? So now I'm going to log out of the TAO Community Edition. And now I log in as this test taker I've just created. And if I'm not wrong on the password, very easy sometimes. Okay. Now, okay. Right, so you can see now the test we have just configured together, this session, and you can see now you can start the test. So it's only 14 minutes into this webinar. We have installed TAO Community Edition together. We have configured one test. Oh, there is an issue here. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what I've done wrong. Okay. Maybe let me double check everything. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I think this happened. I think that's the demo symptom. Let's go back as an admin password. Create another session quickly. let's just take for February, and let's configure again I think I didn't leave enough time for the test to be fully available. And what I wanted to show also, the review, show correct answer, show scores. Okay, all of that is fine. Select the group. Okay. All right. Create the session. Now I log out again. What was again demo 10? This is right. Okay, so now we can see the two sessions I've created. So let's start the second session, which takes the previous version of the test. And I think it was, yeah, I think what happened is that the test, because my computer has been eating when I imported the test a little bit, and I think it's not finished. The process is not fully finished. So here I've taken another test that I had imported before, but it's the exact same test. So you can see also all the new functionality, right? I mean, it's very different from what you experience with TAO Core. I mean, here it's the result of a lot of usability experience team efforts there to meet the WCAG AA compliance, because we work a lot with ministries of education, and it becomes a requirement to be WCAG AA compliant, the goal being to provide equivalent access to educational resources for everyone. I mean, including people having sometimes visual impairments, etc. And you can see that it's quite straightforward. You can navigate in the interface only using keyboard. So here I'm just using keyboard. You can obviously use the mouse, right? But you can do everything with just the keyboard. You can see here at the bottom, that's the representation of the list of questions. And so the look and feel has changed, I think, drastically from what you experience, but for the good of being more accessible. So you can see here all the items. I will just skip a little bit. Maybe I will show the accessibility tools. So you can see here we have developed many accessibility tools. So those tools correspond to different type of visual diseases, where we have been working with OECD on some project to use this. You can change the color of the mouse. You can make the color of the mouse a bit bigger. You can change the font, line height, spacing. So there are many tools. You can also highlight parts of a text here. So sometimes it's quite useful with different colors. So all of that has changed a little bit. So let me just jump straight to the end. But you can see that in terms of interaction type, you will find all the classical interaction types. So let's just test something here that requires human scoring, right? So it's a free open-ended questions, essay questions, needs to be scored manually. Let's just move forward here. Yeah, so here I just need to record, so we can also, here for speaking test, right? For language proficiency test, you can record yourself. And then now I'm going to move on. And now going to submit. I think there is a second part to this test. Okay, so there is a second part. You can see here different settings for this test. Can only go forward for this test. It's more graphic hotspots. I will just quickly move on here, responding a few things quickly. The drag and drop here. And yeah, so let's just respond. And now I finished the test. And I want to show you what's happened at the end of the test. So now, based on the option I've configured at the session level, you can offer to the test taker to see the automated scoring of the test. So it's basically reviewing now. I cannot change the response, right? You can see here, obviously, I rushed a little bit, right? This demo. That's why I have only one good response on this test. That is on the first one. But you can see here on the second one, I responded this quickly, while the correct response was this, right? So there is also this review capability now available in the system. And obviously, there are some questions that are left unanswered, right? So you can Oh, maybe I didn't submit my text. Okay. So for this kind of question, we have now the possibility to grade them automatically, to grade them with a human. So I'm just going to exit now. So this is the review part of the test taking. Oh, again, the second part. All right. So I exit now the test review. So now, as an admin, if I go back, and obviously, we just configure the admin, but you can configure teachers or scholars in the system. If I go back here and I go into the sessions level, we can see, which one was it again? We can see webinar demo, that was this one, right? So you can enter the session, and here you can monitor a little bit the activity. So as a teacher, you can see all the activity, for example, of the group, of the classroom. So here there is only one because I quickly created everything. But normally you will see 20 rows for all the students. And you can see basically where they are also. So you can monitor live the activity. So here, when you monitor live, you really see where they are in the test, if they are blocked on one specific item or not. And what you can do as well is that for those tests that are finished, you can review the test. So that's exactly the same functionality we have seen as a test taker, but for the teacher who can see if he was right or wrong, etc. And obviously for the open-ended question, we have this functionality here where you can see basically the text as responded by the test taker, and where basically the teacher can score the response here using different criteria, and all of this is configurable. So when you create the item, so this item has been created by one author, and the author has said, okay, for this item, we need to evaluate the format with a scale from 1 to 4, the grammar from 1 to 4, etc. And that's why the teacher now can basically score everything. And then obviously the outcome of this score will be taken into account into the final grade of the test taker for this test. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to show you today. I'm sorry I rushed that a little bit. I should have waited a little bit more for the test to be fully imported. That's why we have had this little issue. But as you can see, everything was installed successfully, and you can see that it's rather easy to install a new test and to start delivering it live. So I think with that said, I think we can maybe now open the floor for question and or maybe discussion on any particular aspects you would like to clarify about our community edition. And thank you very much for all your attention here. I'm just going to save and leave this, and maybe we can look at the questions.
Great.
If there are, I have no idea. Yeah, I don't see, I don't know what they are, if there are.
Yep. Thank you, Patrick. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to either leave them in the Q&A or the webinar chat. And I do see we have a few questions already. So just to get started with the first one, will there be continuous releases to Community Edition?
Yes, we intend. I mean, we didn't commit yet to the exact schedule, but we intend to make a new release already by summer this year. And the idea is to make 2 releases per year of TAO Community Edition.
Fine.
And if I may share, I mean, I can already share maybe some of the details. So for July, what we want to do is to include a bit more data and try to improve the ease of use, especially for the users who are not familiar with the previous version of TAO, so that they are a bit more it's a bit more intuitive, right? You should not have to read the user guide to start doing things. So that's a little bit the goal for the release we want to do in summer this year. Yeah.
Thank you. Our next question is, can student names be anonymized for scorers?
Yeah, for scorers, there are different options there. There are several options, and there are different policies there. So you can do it with the real identity there as registered into the portal, or you can do it anonymously for the scorers. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It looks like a couple people had that question. And then another question that we saw just come through. Can students be imported from external systems? Or can they be imported in bulk either?
Right. So you can definitely yeah, like yeah, I mean you have this book data import. So you have a it's based on a CSV format. So you can and we have users doing this. So you can basically book data import all the test takers into the system using this format. Yeah.
Um, the next question is, can we define the look of the session in terms, I believe, of accessibility tools before publishing the session?
So you can configure which access. I mean, here we have seen today the accessibility. Please let me know if I don't respond accurately to this question. But we have seen the accessibility tools today because I have configured them indeed when I created the session. So when I created the session, I've selected those option here. I think I can come back here and edit the session. And what the reason why we saw all those accessibility tools is because I said so, but you don't have to, right? If now the question is more about how we can modify, let's say, the contrast schemes or the colors or these kind of things, then it becomes a modification, which is possible because it's open source, right? But obviously it becomes programming. And if you want to expand on the number of contrast schemes, it's a modification. So we need then developers to look into the source code to adapt to specific needs. Yeah. I hope I responded accurately to your question. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah, if you have any follow-up too, please feel free
Mm.
to add off of that, and we'll go into answering any way we can. Another question, is it possible to plug TAO into an SSO like SAML or OIDC OAuth 2?
Yeah, I think so. Though this question becomes a bit more technical, so I would like to rather follow up with that with our engineer. But I know that we have done this already for customers. We have done different strategies of identification, including SSO, based on the OAuth 2 indeed. So now for the TAO Community Edition, maybe I need to follow up on that question to respond accurately to this, but should not be that difficult actually. Yeah. So I will follow up on basically on this.
And we have everyone's email address too, if you've logged in through Zoom. So we can follow up on your specific questions and also share, like I mentioned, the recording and any of the resources that Patrick showed during the demo today so that you can recreate the steps that he walked you through. The next question that we have coming through is about, again, creating test takers. So can students be created via an API call?
Yeah, there are API. We can create this kind of entities remotely. I think that the whole application, especially the portal, it's basically a front end on top of an API. So the front end use API there. So it's a matter of sharing the documentation about this API there to create those users. So yes, yeah.
Excellent. And then we have a question as well about the architecture differences. And I apologize, I may not be understanding this correctly, so I may ask you to elaborate on your question. But this question is asking to explain the differences in architecture between, I believe, the subscription or enterprise TAO and TAO Community Edition, or it may be asking about the license differences. I'm not entirely sure, but could you give a little bit of description on the architecture differences between the current enterprise and then TAO Community Edition?
So the question are in the chat actually, right? Or where is it? Okay. Let me double check. Right. Is it, between the current TAO and the new TAO. Okay, so I will try to respond. In terms of technology, the previous version of TAO open source, which we call TAO Core, was mostly in PHP. And now, basically, all the new services that you have seen today, like the portal, like the users, like what the service we call TAO Grader, right? That is this full service that allows human graders to score open-ended responses. It's written in Node.js. So in terms of technology, it's indeed very different from the technology used in TAO Core. But the part about the authoring, so where today I imported the test, it's still the same technology as TAO Core. So it's still in PHP, this part. But all the new services have been written in Node.js, yeah. All right, so and then the SSO, so I think we addressed this. Yeah, thank you. We addressed this question.
Yeah. If anyone has any final questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I do have one or two more questions from the frequently asked community questions that we collected. So going back to the demo, how long does it typically take to go from installation to really running with this test? So you showed us that we could be up and running in under 30 minutes. Is that what the norm experience?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, I mean, obviously I know the steps, right? So I was already familiar with the steps today. So I think maybe for someone who never tried to do it before, maybe say maybe 2 hours. But once you know the steps, it's indeed, I think you can get started in 2 hours and then you can start creating tests and items on your own. I think below the hour, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And then I'm just going to see if we have any final questions. Yeah, if we do have a question about support. So is there any support available if anyone is having difficulties during installation?
Yeah, I mean, so this is maybe a good segue to introduce the forum. So if the audience still see my screen, so we do have a set up a forum. It's a brand new forum, right? So but though we start to get messages already there from the early users. But I invite you, so maybe I went too quick here, but on this page here, there is also this join the forum. And you can raise questions about installation issue. We will do our best to try to respond to this kind of installation issue. Obviously, if you ask us, very advanced, complicated questions because you want to run TAO Community Edition in a cloud, large-scale cloud infrastructure, then maybe it's a bit more challenging for us. But if you have an initial issue to install TAO Community Edition to get started for a small scale, please share that in the forum and we will respond to that and hopefully it will help all the other users. Yeah. So yeah, please please go ahead and submit any question in the forum. Thank you. Sorry, I just need to charge my computer. I think that's the reason why it was a bit slow. Yeah. Any other questions, Samantha?
I think that wrapped up the last of the questions. If anything does come up, please feel free to send us an email. We will be following up, as I mentioned, with the recording and the resources from today's discussion. Please feel free to respond directly with any questions or challenges, discussion points that come up.
And I would like to thank everyone to join. I mean, this was the first webinar for Community Edition. We want to do probably monthly webinars, and I'm quite excited about it. So let's make it together. So with my role, my role is basically I'm the ambassador for the open source community. So I'm here to help, and do not hesitate to reach out with me, and I will be happy to try to help you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you all, and we will be in touch shortly.
Thank you.
And we will keep you all in the mailing list for any future webinars.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.